My first experience with discrimination in school happened when it was my first week in school actually. I was 7 years old.
When I was 13.
12 years old, I think, 11.
In primary.
As young as primary school, 12, 11.
I was seated somewhere in the back of a classroom, and the boy sitting behind me stuck chewing gum all over my chair, and it got into my hair and stuff. And when the teacher asked him why, it was like, oh, sebab dia India.
I still remember times where, we would go down and we used to have break. Most, if not all of them, actually would not sit next to me simply because I was different in color.
I bumped into this group of I think they were Australian international kids. They saw me and they pushed me to the ground.
And then things like calling me hitam every day. And these were things that I had never experienced before. I didn't understand what was going on as well.
It was just a straight up, name calling and so forth.
They started to squint their eyes at me. They're like, "Ching chong nang long ling, you like to eat rice?"
There was this one time where I was at a competition and we were a team of 3 girls. So that was already a really offsetting thing for others. Seeing 3 really powerful girls at a science competition. Okay, when I'm at these kind of events or I'm at school, I usually wear my hijab. There were other people who treated me differently when they found out that I'm Chinese. They treat you a bit better than they did before.
There was this one time, the person who called me out from it was also Chinese. She would tell me, oh, go back to China, as I was walking down the hallways.
When I went to secondary school and stuff, it became more apparent. While things with friends were okay and, I was a lot more accepted because it became slightly more multiracial of a school. But in secondary, I guess, there were certain things, I guess, teachers would have done as well, that sort of really reflected that the nature of this is actually much, much deeper than that.
I was not invited to play in the school hall for table tennis because table tennis was considered to be a Chinese game. One of the boarders put my name in for the under 15 open, I think it was. Then I went on beating the others until I got into the final. In the final, I got beaten by another unknown. Usually, if you have proven yourself to that level, you'll be selected for the school team.
So we have a valedictorian sort of equivalent awards and stuff, right? And my competition's accomplishments were just maybe 3-4 bullets. So my awards were all the way down to the floor. So people it seems like a very clear cut. And I don't mean to sound in a very brash or arrogant manner, but it just seemed kind of like a no-brainer, right? Unless there was something preventing it, right?
I was not selected for the school team.
I didn't win it.
I think the teacher has a role in it. He thought that my performance was a fluke, that I got into the final only by chance, that I don't deserve to be in the team.
When it comes to competitions, teachers will actually look at your race. They are more likely to approach a group of students who are Chinese for a science or maths competition, rather than students who are Dayak, like Iban Bidayu, especially in Sarawak, or even Malays.
It was very strictly, quote unquote, voted on a very racial lines. Even then, it seems incorrect, right? I don't want the Indian teachers to vote for me just because I'm Indian, right? It has to be because there's a stronger merit to it.
I've actually had a teacher message me say oh, can you ask your friend to check if she has done your homework? Since she's this race, this kind of people actually don't really do their homework. And
when I finally got into my Form 5, I was playing for the state. But I think if it has been based on merits, do I have to go and prove myself time and time again and have to go outside of the school to get accepted by the school in the end? I think no one should go through it.
And it's quite shameful because as teachers, you would expect them to be much better and to sort of really set an example. So
why didn't they know about this? Why didn't they know that discrimination is wrong?
How do I feel about it? Angry, of course. But the anger comes so much later. Disappointment was the first thing that came in.
Yeah, I think I was pretty scared, and I remember crying a lot that day.
I remember I cried myself to sleep that night because I never thought that my race would make someone else feel entitled to do that to me.
I think at that age, when you've never had to encounter these things, you're sort of shielded before that, and then it's like, whoa, okay, this is very real.
And at that point, you can't comprehend, right? Like, you didn't understand why people were doing what they were doing. It's kind of sad because, I'm just like giving up on like, oh, this is the way things are going to be here in this country, and people are just going to be having the same thing. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Until a point, I was like, okay, I can't do anything because I was never someone's first choice.
Which is bad, because if you doubt yourself, you are bringing yourself down and say, I'm not good enough for this.
It was just the start of a long journey of learning to appreciate the color of my skin and my background and my culture.
I didn't think too much of it then, but I think looking back, I felt it was discriminatory.
It wasn't my responsibility to make them feel like I belonged here, because I always belonged here. And I feel like most times it's like rooted in like fear and like insecurity, that you're afraid that their existence will devalue yours.
Plus the idea of a power play, right? I mean, power is the biggest issue that we have, because people feed into power and that they sort of instill this fear that, if you give up power, a certain race is going to come up and they are going to sort of basically wipe you out, which never is the case, right? But
when you have a group of people that dominate, they play all the games by their rules, and there is no place for others who are different.
People are not exposed to people of like different skin colors or like different cultures, and they therefore feel like their way of being is right, and they therefore garner that sense of entitlement.
Also, a lot of influence, I think, as a young child. If you're a 7-year-old kid doing this to another 7-year-old kid, it's very unlikely that you came up with these ideas on your own, and they're a product of your environment, that you think, certain races are bad, certain cultures are not nice, or, stereotypes.
They sort of incited even more sort of probably a bit more racial rhetorics and sort of hate rhetorics into the minds of the kids, in a way, by saying that, oh yeah, just stick with your friends of your same color, and we don't know what sort of like infections he has. The comments that you don't want to dirty your skin color by sitting next to him.
It may seem harmless at first. I would say it always seems harmless in every case, but it's actually not. Many grew up in an environment where discrimination is normalized and seen as kind of a joke per se. Consequently, they never realize how serious it is, especially in households where everyone practices discrimination.
And discrimination itself is a very, very, very broad word. While I specifically am talking to you about my aspects of discrimination on a very racial angle, people can be discriminated for various other issues,
What I hope for Malaysia is that we can all be willing to put in the effort into understanding each other, because that cultural shift can't happen overnight.
But the reality is that these things are still very much present and around us.
So these barriers that we created, called discrimination, we need to remove them. How long it will take, I do not know. But that's what I hope to see.
A lot of people lack empathy.
We pride ourselves on being a multiracial country, and it's so many different cultures and backgrounds. But the reality is that it's not as glossy as they've made it sound.
If you see your friends, your teachers, or even your family members practice discrimination anywhere, anytime, take the chance to educate them. Little by little, one person by one person, you're able to change a society.
And I do have a lot of hope in your generation to make this happen.
Yeah, I think that we're all just people, same as each other. We all want to be respected and appreciated and understood.
Just being able to respect human beings for who they are and not have all these filters. A filter which was indoctrinated by society and a structural issue. Starting at schools, right? People get inculcated with good values that, these things are not right.
Because children are like 20% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. So we need to really prioritize how we want them to see the world.
I wish 27-year-old Sunshine could tell 7-year-old Sunshine that there's nothing wrong with you. You're actually okay, and you will be okay. But this is just something that's, you're gonna have to learn that it's not your fault, lah. Yeah.